Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is our 55th double five episode of The Inner Lenses. I'm here with the usual suspects, Alec, Brett, myself, and Gabby. This is July 15th, I believe, is when this is dropping. We were having a chat, and based on our prior conversation, it was all pretty much wound up about choices and how important they are, how empowering they are, and how important it is for us to be in control of our own choices and to own them and to be proud of the choices that we're making, I think is most important. So we thought it would be interesting to talk about the opposite. What is it when somebody isn't making their choices? What do we tend to do? Make excuses, right? So stop making excuses and make better choices is where we ultimately want to be. But for today's episode, we're going to explore a little bit about where these excuses come from. Why do we do it? When it feels really easy to just make a choice, right? It just feels easy to make a choice, whether it's to nobody else's judgment. What if that's a good or bad, and good or bad is like nothing here. But we put that pressure on ourselves that have to make good choices. But a choice is just a choice. Good, however you want to look at it. So let's change the narrative here, right? I made this choice instead of making excuses for why you didn't make a better choice. That's the way it goes. So let's talk about it. How guilty are we collectively or individually? You make excuses. Where do they tend to be mostly about, and why? Why are you doing that? Thoughts?
Go on, Gabby.
You know, you talked, something really popped into my head. I was wondering, when did I used to make excuses, right? And that happened mostly in my life, and I'm glad to say I'm not doing it anymore. But it usually was when I wanted to make a choice, which I thought, this is really what I need, this is really what I want. And then I felt, no, this isn't great, people will judge me. Then I made an excuse. Rather than be just honest and take responsibility for my choice, I then started telling people, oh yeah, and I brought up tons of excuses because I was afraid. It was usually fear-based, if that makes sense.
It was almost exactly the same thing that came up for me, Gabby, when Erika was posing the question. And I've said it many times, I'm going to repeat it. Self-awareness precedes everything. And if we are really consciously aware of what we want and why we want it, then all of this fear of somebody else's judgment, and therefore, like in our minds, a little story about an excuse we're going to make, let's just, like you said in the previous episode, own it. Just cast away all of that BS about why I'm doing such a thing. And it's like, no, you're making a choice. And as long as you're not like or denying or somebody else's relevance or needs, there's nothing wrong with that. As long as you're not literally taking from somebody else to do what you want, there's nothing wrong with it. There's no good or bad, right or wrong when it comes to our choices. We can make maybe healthier choices, but if you do this from working in mental health, if somebody has capacity and competence to make a decision, it doesn't matter how bad a decision I think that is, their decision to make. And they don't have to justify it. They don't have to worry about me judging it. They just own the shit out of that decision.
Yeah. You have initial thoughts on this?
I think that's scary. You think about it, it's scary owning that you have a choice, that what happens to you, you had that choice. And that's what you chose to do. And this is what happened in those choices. That's scary. And sometimes you may not want to look at that, right? So the power is in walking through that fear and actually looking at it and owning it. Like, you did do that. And you know what? I can choose differently next time, or I can choose the same. That's what makes me feel good. Then I'm going to choose it again. But there's something about accountability and owning that piece that will take you to that next level. Like, if I go to jail because I stole a car, that's bullshit. Why? You stole a car. Like, you got caught. Like, there's nothing good about it, right? Did you steal the car to save somebody's life? Well, you probably wouldn't go to jail if you stole a car and you were saving somebody's life and you went to a hospital. You know what I mean? Like, be real. Like, accountability and all it all plays into each other. But it's scary knowing that whatever happens, we had a say in beforehand. And if we're not aware that we had the say, then that is the wake up.
And
That's the aware.
I think that's why the conscious awareness and consideration of things is important, because ends up, let's say they're before the court for loads of nefarious reasons, and their excuse is didn't intend to, or didn't know that would happen. Well, maturity and aspect in this. But for people who have some degree of self-awareness, who have awakened enough to the authenticity and the sovereignty, the autonomy of living a life of qualified choice, is scary, and it's beautiful, and it's incredibly powerful. We should all celebrate the hell out of it, because if that's the case and we're all doing that, then there's very little that could be really wrong in society. But at the moment, we're so hell-bent on making excuses or things out of the air. Something that Gabby was saying before we started recording again, people choose labels, they choose diagnoses. Nothing get me started on Big Pharma and Western medicine, but enough labelling and diagnosing of things from that as it is. And for people to go, oh yeah, I was looking at that kid and I think they're definitely on the spectrum. And Google degree, how long did it take you to get that? It's just completely unacceptable. And a child hears that. I was in a coffee shop, I won't name it. Young kids, not in my view, judging it, being parented very well, a couple of dads using it as a creche. And every now and then they'd get a good girl. I was like, is there a dog in here? Like, message are you giving this child? And then there was like such a good bit of behaviour, and there was a real, like, this behaviour. Well, do you know what? If your eyes were a little bit more focused on the child, they wouldn't be desperately trying to get your attention, which wouldn't have led to them doing this thing that you're now labelling as bad behaviour. And in this little microcosm that I was looking at, they're labelling this little girl's behaviour, comparing her to her brother, setting this false expectation about what was going on, and all of it came from a choice, which was that these two guys were more interested in catching up with each other and having their coffee than they were about managing those children. And you fast forward 15 years, and we've got daddy issues, we've got self-esteem problems, and probably some labels, whether or not from medical professionals.
You have a good point, because it's not only the labeling, but it's excuses everybody makes, and excuses where people suddenly say that choice was completely okay, and you go like, I have an example. I am years and years back, the little village I lived, there was an actual murder. A guy murdered his wife, right? And within a day, all the men were in agreement that he must have snapped, because the wife was difficult. Let's put it that way. She wasn't the easy person to be around, right? And everybody knew that. And all the guys said, "Oh yeah, I hope he won't get too long in prison, because it would have snapped with her. It's really hard work." And I was like, "What kind of excuse is this to murder someone?" And I actually turned around and said, "Your man had choices. Why did he stay with her for 20 years until he snapped? He could have divorced her 10 years ago." Right? Why is this suddenly an excuse? He had choices. He could have divorced her, right? He didn't, because she was the one with the money, right? Side point. But we all have choices. So why do you stay with a person until you snap and you actually kill? You know what I mean? And that's what I mean. That's the thing about societies starting to become psychologists, right? You just said using Dr. Google, not even Dr. Google, just things we hear. You brought up in another conversation, everybody's diagnosing people now. He's a narcissist. He's a sociopath. He's toxic male. He's that. What choices do you make? What type of man do you choose to be with? Maybe choose a different type of fella and you will get different character traits.
So what I'm hearing here, I'm trying to make sense of all of this as far as excuses. And all that keeps coming up for me is an excuse for whatever the reason, right? It doesn't even matter. It is a simplified way of just shirking your responsibility in whatever it is happened. It's a way of protecting yourself for any judgment or anxiety or shame or anything that might come because you didn't do something or you did something that you're trying to excuse away. And all I'm getting curious about is if we took a survey, right, of people and we did a deep dive into where are you with your boundaries and how often do you make excuses, how common that would be. Because if you have healthy boundaries, there's no need to make excuses. It's just, this is what I'm doing. This is the choice I'm making. And there's nothing to excuse away, right? I'm also curious about how similar it would be in people that have difficulty apologizing, right? This is a thing. There are people in the world that have a really hard time apologizing for shitty behavior or whatever. And I'm wondering, how common is it for those people to be making excuses, right? Because in my experience, people that have a hard time apologizing because they're busy putting the excuse in the way of the apology. It's, well, this is why I did it. I don't give a shit why you did it. It doesn't matter why you did it. You did it, and now we're here. So remove that reason, whatever that reason is that you need to make the excuse to protect yourself around, and just get to it. So it's really just a heightened way of being fully responsible, right? I'm just taking total responsibility for something. My view of it is, if we're using it as a way to protect ourselves from any judgment, right? Really, ultimately, as individuals, we really are the only judgment that we have to fear is our own self-judgment, right? Like, if I'm about to do something or not do something and I'm judging myself already, like, I own judge and jury. Like, it should stop right there. I don't need to make excuses about it. It's just being a heightened awareness of what that judge and jury is going to say might stop me from doing or acting in a way that is going to necessitate an excuse. So just get in line with yourself. Take a look at what you're doing and just have ultimate responsibility to whatever it is that you're doing. And there's no need to excuse it away. Like, when I'm in the presence of somebody who's doing nothing but making excuses, I can feel the eye roll come. It's sort of just like, I don't care. Excuse is not necessary. It doesn't matter. Just say, yeah, I did that. Okay. The one who's going to have to live with the ramifications of whatever it is that you've done, right? Or not done. Because I think we miss the point that sometimes excuses are made because we're not doing certain things, not so much doing something. It's what I didn't do or didn't say that I need to excuse away.
You have a good point. We are back to the previous conversation. Own your own shit. Own your own behavior. Own your own. And you have a really good point, because most of the time we actually make excuses for what we're not doing, because we live in a world often by rules and regulations of other people. Should is the giveaway. When I say to myself, I should do that, and I don't do that, is an indicator that I actually don't want to do it. But somewhere I have learned that I should do it, and I still think I should do it. But if I really own my own stuff, I must to say, you know what? No, I don't want to do that. I'm not going to do it. Full stop. That's my choice.
Exactly. That's a boundary thing. That's why I said it's like to boundaries, because if you have a boundary and you just don't want to do something, run it through my personal filter. Yeah, I don't feel like doing that. Other people might think that I should do it, but I don't personally want to do it. And I'm okay with that. That's it. I don't owe anybody an explanation or an excuse to fill the space about what somebody else might think. That's why I'm really curious about how similar it might run in those, where you stand on your boundaries and how often you make excuses and why you're doing that.
Yeah. Conscious of the fact that there's levels to this, like there should, something that chosen responsibility, called chores, chosen responsibilities, something that has to be done. I have accepted responsibility for it. It's my thing. But on this moment, on this day, I don't want to do it. And I'm like not feeling the love and I don't do it. I make a choice. I'm not going to do it. At some point, when that chosen responsibility comes up, the chances are I'm going to have to do it in a moment where I'm less prepared, less well energized or resourced, and it's going to be more of a burden. That's on me. Chose not to do it when I should have done it, and as a result, it's causing me additional pressure. As long as I accept that as well and don't try and make an excuse about it, that's fine. If somebody does say to you, you tell us that you were going to do this, well, maybe there's an accountability piece that needs to be looked at. But making excuses, and especially as we all know about this inner critic who is more than happy to judge us anyway, I say let peace be your umpire. If you can have that responsibility and you make a choice not to do it, and you're perfectly comfortable and you kick back like Gabby with her golden bears, good luck to you. I hope you really enjoy them, and I hope that you never have to sort of yourself for doing that, because it's all about maturity and character and just your shit, people, for Christ's sake.
You know what? It's actually really freeing. For me, freedom is actually having those choices and actually own them. Actually, so much falls away. That conscience, lying to people, that all falls away. And it's so freeing. It's pure freedom. So I was supposed to do something the other day and I didn't do it. And I just said to the person, look, I didn't do it. It's not done yet. Because I live in Ireland, the sun came out, which doesn't happen very often. 3 days of sunshine and 24 degrees. I chose to sit in the sun. I was not going to go inside, sit on the computer, because I can't do that the other 360 days a year, right? And I chose to do it and I owned it. And you know how freeing that was?
Yeah.
I know what the person did. You know what it said? Because in the old days, I would have been afraid what they would say and I would have started making excuses, right? So I owned it. And you know what the person said? Well, I can understand that. I would have done the same.
Yeah.
It actually is really freeing when something is supposed to get done and you don't, and somebody, why when you get it done and you're just like, didn't. I have no excuse. Just did it. I just didn't get it done. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not going to spend energy trying to find a list of things that might sound reasonable to fit why I didn't get that done. Because in that exact moment, I chose not to do it. It's something, reason. But I'm wondering how ingrained this is in us, right? Because I immediately go back to all of the situations where we might have to provide excuses, right? And we're taught that we have to come up with an excuse, like call out of work. If you bang into work sick or something, back in the day, don't know if it even still happens much anymore, but why are you late? I'll get my underwear. I mean, with a whole bunch of fucking stupid excuses instead of saying, I didn't listen to my alarm and I left the house. I mean, the boss doesn't want to hear that. How many people are going to actually say that when they're called out if they're late? What's a boss going to do in response to that? Be like, oh, cool, thanks for being honest, instead of coming up with some cockamamie reason why you're late. I feel like it's ingrained.
Yeah, but I think the reason for that is because fundamentally none of this is important. If this was like you live or die on the decisions that we're making for the strength of our tribe and community, all of this stuff would get done. You had to go and dig up 6 yams and bring them back to bake by the fire, or everyone was going to die. You'd have gone and dug up your 6 yams. But actually, like, I move 15 files from one tray to another.
But listen,
I'm going to stay 15 minutes more in bed. I feel like bosses in particular have no right to, like, you're late. yeah, your job sucks.
I mean,
If I had choice, I wouldn't be here at all. But unfortunately,
your argument sounds great if we lived back in the days where all I had to do was dig up 6 fucking yams. But my boss's business is not based on how many yams I'm digging up. So he or she, whoever the boss is, I'm not saying it's my boss, but in workplaces, that is their yam based business. Like, they need you to be there to do whatever it is the yam of the day is. I'm using the yam metaphor, but feel like it's an ingrained thing. Like, you need a doctor's note, even for school, like unexcused absence. That is a term that we use here, right? So if a kid is leaving school or is in that school and it's not an excused absence, they get whatever against them. So it's like, well, what qualifies as an excuse? We're given the language, like, we're actually taught that we're supposed to be coming up with reasons why we're not doing what we're supposed to be, instead of just saying, I'm not there because I'm not fucking there. That's it. That's all you need to know. Why do I have to make something up? I'm just not there. Isn't that all that matters? I didn't do what I was supposed to do. Does it matter why? What difference does it make?
I like to have a solution, if there's a solution, depending upon what the scenario may be. Rather than give an excuse, I can give a solution. That, I feel, is a better way of addressing an excuse, is more giving the solution.
Like, give an example.
I don't know, if you're on a job and you don't do what you have to do, then you could say, well, what if, see it now, if I would have done X, Y, Z, solution, coming up with a solution. Well, all right, great, get on it then. Let's nail that down. Like, a solution for whatever it was. You see where you went wrong. You made a mistake, right? You don't need an excuse. I wasn't thinking of what. Have the solution. If you have the solution, then that person would turn around and be like, great, we just wasted an hour, but that solution sounds like it's going to take a half hour to solve that 1 hour problem. And at least we won't make that mistake again. All right, that's a win in my book. Let's get going on that.
I think that sounds awesome, but it requires a person to first be accountable for the fact that they screwed something up. You have to first be able to take ownership and accountability of, this is what happened. I offer no excuse, but next time it could be this way.
But I think it's great what Brad is suggesting, because it's in the language again, isn't it? Like you said, Erika, we have all these terms like excused absences or whatever, or you need a sick note or whatever reason. We concentrate on the reason why you weren't there instead of saying, I'm here now, I'm an hour late, I stay tonight an hour longer to get it done. That's all it needs. You don't actually need the excuse. It's actually a good point, solution based. So yeah,
I'm kind of saying that you were wrong. Like, it was wrong. Do I have to say I was wrong? Well, can I tell you? How do you tell me without telling me? Well, give me the solution. Yeah, I get it. Do we have to go over where I went wrong? I fucked it up. You're right. How about we just stay focused on the task at hand? I know.
It's kind of hierarchical, isn't it? It's come like a forelock or taking your cap off, or sorry, master. It's humbling yourself, and then you're at the humour of their punishment. Whereas what you're suggesting is a much more mature way of looking at life. You were waiting for me before you started the job, guys. I'm going to do it this way, rather than apologising and waiting for the wrath of the petty tyrant boss to fall upon you. Just whip that out, because that's because of that petty wrath that we're making excuses in the first place. But you come in and it's like, let's face it, Brett, you said in an earlier conversation, the guys cut you up in traffic, you've spilt your coffee, you go in, your day is on a perpetual spiral. Whereas if you do you know what? I'm just going to go back and I'm going to get that coffee, and then that guy won't be in the position to cut me off because I'm not going to be rushed. When you stroll in and I'm 15 minutes late, but you're in a much better mind state, you're prepped for your day, you're not calling in a whole extra set of experiences of late, frustrated, hassled, and it's just Yeah, my work. Less about hours of work and more about what needs to be done with the work. Using your example, okay? You need, I don't know, X number of meters of conduit. I apologise for not knowing your job well enough. Then you will get X number of meters of conduit out of me today, because that's what you were paying me for. The fact that I started 15 minutes later than you wanted to is...
You're
So
going to get so much more out of that person, too.
Yeah. Back to owning your own shit, isn't it?
it always comes back to it.
I did that. I
Anyone...
take responsibility, and here's my solution.
Yeah, I don't think we can go from the fucking something up and then just going quick to fix it without the acknowledgement that I actually did it.
Yeah.
This is my personal opinion. Without that acknowledgement, it's sort of just like, it gives the vibe of, you can't just sweep in here and fix it all every time you screw it up. You actually have to acknowledge that you're doing something that is screwing it up or hurting somebody. You can't just hurt someone and not acknowledge that you did and then fix it. You just can't go from hurt to fix. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Don't know.
No, but
Yeah.
all in how you say it, right? I see where I went wrong. Whatever you say, what it is, I see where I went wrong. You now see if I do X, Y, Z, right? So you are acknowledging it. I don't have the perfect scenario where I can give all the words, but then there's a part like Alec was talking before about the two gentlemen in the coffee shop or something with the child, and I had a hit on that where the child was doing something negative, and negative things are still attention. So there's something about, if you're not going to give me attention, well, I'm going to get your attention because I need attention. And so that starts to get put into people, and then they'll do things wrong. They'll be late. They'll XYZ because they need the attention, because they weren't trained about good attention. They learned about negative attention. And some people just have so much negative attention following them around. You know, that negative attention is obviously not good. Like, a shift in that attention that I shared with younger students that I had in the past, I would say, you're always getting attention, and it feels negative when it comes from me. Like, how can I help you with that? Like, I don't want to keep coming at you for XYZ. Like, how do we work this so that I don't come to you like that? Is there a solution? Is there something you could do? And just looking for accountability in a conversation. But then when they do something, I'm going to give them the attention that's warranted, because now I want them to see the other side of the coin. Like, look, here's the same attention, but how does that feel? Right? And then there's that acknowledgement, and then they feel, and now they start stepping out of the old program. And that's how I get attention. I got to take this cup of coffee and throw it across the room. Oh, getting attention. Thank God. Right? No, you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
That
probably takes a lot of undoing. Child in the coffee shop. I was only with them for, I don't know, they were probably there about half an hour, 3/4 of an hour. But it was so clear to me that little girl's doing something, comments to father ignores it. Daddy done whatever thing, father ignores it. I won't digress in my story. I was going to go on about how he was bragging about how much money he was making and how he stood up to this person and that person, but we'll skip that. Third thing, Daddy is a real tone now, until the fourth time, and it was every fourth time, it's a real Daddy. And what she got was something along the lines of, quiet, the grown-ups are talking. But like you say, still got the attention. So, in 10 years, that's going to be a foot stomp and a tension of the boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. That is the tone of voice I use. That is how I deal with people so that they attend to my need. And this is one of the reasons, very first conversation, set 53, misanthropy, why I don't like to be around people. because they come in at this high level, because they've learned from family dynamics that coming in angry and shouty, people go, oh, okay, I don't really want you around. That's what I don't want to be around. That's the sort of people I don't want to be around. The people who have learned that, oh, that was cool, I did this thing, and they get a friendly, that's pretty cool, more comfortable in their own skins, they've got better confidence, self-esteem. It just creates a ton of work by teaching people this whole fallacy of blame and deflection. And I think we start that in very early childhood.
Yeah.
And then here we are decades later discussing how we undo it.
And you have a good point, because if you think about it, when you were a child, I mean, when we bring back the whole conversation to the excuses we still make as adults, right? Rather than owing what we did, where does it stem from? Because as children, when we did something, it was judgment from the parents straight away. And the famous, Erika, you said it earlier, why? We got it all as a child. Why didn't you clean the room? Why is this not done yet? Why did you do that? What were you thinking? Got it all the time, and because we want to be right, looking for love of our parents as children, we want to be loved. It's really important. It's natural, because if they don't love us, they kick us out. We're only 7 years old, we can't survive. So our intrinsic instinct to have the parents like us, so we will do anything to make sure they love us and they don't kick us out, so not to get punished. When they come with questions like this, of course we start making excuses, because we don't want to be punished. We're afraid of the punishment. And that's where the excuses come from, when we still do it as adults. We don't want to be punished by the boss, so let's have an excuse, right?
Yeah. And the way
It could be as simple as being overlooked next time for a promotion if we think you're not turning up in time because we think I don't care, I have a good excuse. This is where this comes from.
Yeah, and I hear is this little girl, right? She's whatever, acting out and getting the attention the way she needs to, but fast forward in her life decades later, and she still has maybe poor behavior, and she's on a therapist couch and trying to get to the bottom of it, and all she's going to be doing is, well, because it's my dad's fault, I'm going to make an excuse now, even still. Right? I've learned that behavior, but it can't possibly be anything that I'm in control of because it's his fault. How many people do we know are blaming their parents still for choices and decisions they're making as full ass adults? At some point, your parents have to get off the hook here. Deal with your shit. Take responsibility for whatever you're doing or not doing, and life gets a lot easier. Can't blame everybody forever.
Yep.
Do you know, I don't know if anybody's ever noticed, I got this, I'm talking to the reader rather than you people who've been in my home. This is Invictus up here by W.E. Henley. And the final two lines are, I am the master of my fate, I am the captain of my soul. And, the whole poem, different lines at different periods have really stood out for me. But in this topic, I'm the master of my fate, I am the captain of my soul, is like, and I'm owning my shit. I mean, he didn't add that, but that's my takeaway from this conversation. What have we got around the room?
The next video, Alec is going to have a piece of paper hanging underneath that. And I'm owning my shit, Alec.
My closing thoughts, I'm making hashtags throughout all of these just because they're fun, like as a hobby. I love making hashtags of things that people are saying throughout. And my favorite, I think the bigger point for me in this episode especially is it's okay if you have shit. We all have shit. We all have it because we were all that kid in the coffee shop, right? So we all have shit from wherever it came from. It's okay to have shit. Just handle it, your shit. It's okay to have it. We're not judging or anything. Nobody's perfect. Just handle your shit. It's for you to handle.
Gabby?
Simple for me. Don't make excuses.
Yeah. Very much, everybody. We will see you in the next episode. And just remember, if you do handle your shit, wash your hands afterwards.